80 years in business, third generation owner. We want to hear the quick backstory on how this company got started, and then we want to talk about what you're most excited about right now. Excuse me, as I look down and look up right now, Feldman Geospatial, some of the hard things you're working on and what you're excited about now. So, Michael Feldman, take the floor. Tell us a little bit about the company and how it got started.
Sure, Kurt. Thanks for having me on. So back in the early 1940s, my grandfather came out of military service, and he was into engineering. So he did a lot of work at civil engineering firms in the Boston area, and he quickly saw that there was a need for civil engineers to have surveying work, as we all know, surveying. And so that's kind of what got him into the idea in 1946 to found the company Harry R. Feldman Inc. That was his name. You can see Harry right there using that old piece of equipment on my wall in Niagara, New York.
Great.
And he started the firm back then to do servicing civil engineers, commercial surveying work for the city of Boston, making maps so the city of Boston could make assessors maps for planning and taxes. And from Grandpa Harry, it went to my dad, Jeff Feldman, and Uncle David, who then ran the business, I'd say until the late 90s. I got into it at a later age 28 in 1998. My dad always told me that you don't want this business. It's a nightmare. I can't stand it. It's ups, it's downs. There's weeks with no pay. He had been through the savings and loan crash. He had been through a lot. But on one day in 1998, I talked to him and said, I might want to try this. And I caught him on the right day where he was thinking, well, I have no succession plan. Why don't you come give this a shot? So that was the beginning, and that's how I got into it. He had me work in the field from 1998 to 2001. He said, remember, you're not the boss's son. You're someone who works here, and you need to be the best employee at this company. He put a lot of pressure on me. And then from there, I tried to learn everything that we did position-wise, all the way up to a time where I looked around and said, well, this business doesn't have marketing. Our letterhead looks weird. Our logo went from brown to green. Who's looking out for stuff? And that's where I got more into the business side later.
What a story. A true family business. And I love the fact that you did every job in the company. And I wonder, how important was that for you to take on every role and experience a day in the life?
It was huge, Kurt, because, I came to work here and there were three guys who were really running the show. They had all been here since either the day I was born or one guy came later when I was 6 years old. And so I knew that I had to earn their respect enough to one day ultimately be either managing them or in charge of the business and they trust me. So it was very important. And I knew someday maybe if I'm successful, I'm going to manage people who are working in the field or doing office functions, talking to clients about bringing new work and what we need to do to help them achieve their goals. So it was very important. And even now I do talk to people about I worked in the field and they laugh at me because all the technology is different. And admittedly, there's a lot of stuff I cannot use myself, most of it. But at least I know how hard it is to work outdoors in the winter. It's very hard. Or deal with client pressures or sit in front of a machine drafting plans all day. Very hard. So very important.
So you gain respect. You gain respect for everybody in the field and every employee there.
I tried to because, I remember one of my first days here, some guy came up to me, said, oh, you're the boss's son. You're going to be working in the office soon or what? And my answer was, well, no,
you're going to be a keyboard warrior is what they
yeah,
call
right.
them,
I
right?
said, I'm working in the field for now and I'm just going to do my best. And that's all I knew. And it worked out. We had a great group of people. It was, different at first because of course I was the boss's son. But as long as I worked hard and was respected and had it so people wanted to work with me, it all worked out fine.
I'm curious personally, and I'll put you on the spot just for a second. You'll go on the Budweiser hot seat, and I'll ask you about your mentality in '98. When your dad was talking about, geez, this business is hard. There's times when you don't eat, you don't have a paycheck. Not sure if we're running it the right way. You're looking around and seeing there's some gaps, right, in the tools you're using and the technology. Was that challenge, was that sort of laying down that challenge to you something that motivated you? Well, like, what were you thinking back then about joining the business? Like risk versus reward?
Well, I thought, at that point, my thinking was very small because I wanted to try it and see. And, the only exposure I got was way back when, being in my grandfather's basement with his different rulers and 6-foot rulers that fold out like an accordion, seeing him doing some hand drafting. I didn't really know what was going on. I used to do space planning in my room and draw things to scale. So again, I was very small in my thinking. But when I heard how tough it was for my dad, um, it didn't scare me for some reason. I mean, I was working at EF Education, and I don't know if you know, they're in North Point in
I do.
Cambridge, and they're an educational travel company. We booked students on international travel. I was in the performing arts tours. We'd arrange music venues for music students to travel abroad and play music. And it was great. And I thought I would maybe start my own travel business. But then we ran into so many supplier issues in that business where we had a book 100 kids going to Europe, and the airlines got messed up and everyone lost their seats and parents are upset. And then in Greece, all the people are going on strike who run ferries. And I realized I can't run a business where I don't have control over my product. So I
Mm,
quickly shifted in my thinking of, I don't think I want to start that business anymore.
yeah,
And that's when I talked to my dad. So when I heard about his issues, I said, okay, those are issues. We can't control the economy, but we can build a great business and we can control the supply, not the supply side, but how we're supplying work and how we're dealing with client demands. And I felt it was more doable. I think I didn't know the scope and where it would go, but I felt more optimistic than he was.
mm, I like it. 98, I'm trying to think, we're both local guys. I'm in Worcester today, you're in Boston. There was a big project going on around there in the Boston area, I think, around that time. I don't know
Yep.
what your involvement was in that, or if that was a big thing for business, what was it called?
Yeah, the big dig.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, again, because of where we were positioned more as a private sector service company,
yeah,
we weren't doing a lot of government work. I think part of it was my dad and uncle weren't as into dealing with government procurement, which was, a lot of work, a lot of
yeah,
paperwork.
yeah.
So I think that we benefited from the big dig because it kept a lot of our competitors busy, so
Hmm.
we were able to do a good amount of work because everyone's busy. We want all of our competitors busy because that's a sign of the times being good.
That's
When the
right.
competitors aren't busy, you're competing with people who are then maybe softening up prices and stuff, and things get really difficult. So I think that we were beneficiaries of the big dig, even though we didn't do too much work that directly impacted what was going on there.
That's a great attitude. That's a great way to look at competition. If there's a lot of competition for what you do, that probably means there's a lot of demand for what you do too, right? And that's very insightful. I like that. Tell me a little bit about the business. Let's differentiate between you and for example, I had an interview a few months ago with someone out in Ohio named Matt Aston from Ground Penetrating Radar Systems. I don't think it's a direct competitor in many ways. I think they do some things that you do or you don't do, and you do some things that they don't do. Tell
Right.
us a little bit about it. Tell us a little bit about the business if we're not engineers and civil engineers and in that world.
Sure. Well, I mean, it did start as doing mostly surveying work, and everyone thinks of the people on the side of the road looking through the camera with the tripod.
Yep.
But our business has really grown where we're one of the largest what specialty, and we use the word geospatial, which really deals with anything that has a geographic location attached to it. And it's not as much just a geographic coordinate, but we will survey space inside buildings. And that's like what you just said, Matt's company, they do some of that too. They did acquire a firm who does some kind of work like that. So whether it's 3D scanning inside a building, like this old 1856 factory building that I'm standing in right now, which is our office, to then produce 3D models that architects will take and design from. They'll look at all of the MEP systems and make sure everything's coordinated. So when it's time to do new work, all of the trades know exactly where they're going and where they're building. Traditional land surveying work, being out on land, doing boundary property survey for acquisition of commercial real estate, which banks need, as well as using drones to do large area mapping as well. We're doing ground penetrating radar when people need to know what's going on under the ground for different kinds of reasons, whether it's bedrock issues, whether it's rebar and concrete, underground utility location as well, where we can trace lines from a building out to a street and show either contractors or construction contractors and other developers where are utilities underground so we don't hit things as we build. And we do something also called virtual design and construction, where we're working in existing models, maybe on a project that's out in the Midwest, and we're helping them coordinate all of the different trade work that's going on in a model to make sure nothing clashes and everything is going to be put in the right place. We're also on construction sites. So the John Hancock Tower was built in 1969, and we were there to lay out the columns as it went up and keep it plumb as they go. Or Millennium Tower, a 60-story building here today. The Four Seasons, which is out my window here in Back Bay, a 60-story hotel and residence, South Station as well. And then we've been involved with companies who have now manufactured, and they're utilizing robotic, it's called robotic printing. So these 3D models and CAD plans we talk about, that information goes into these machines on wheels that can then drive around concrete slabs and actually print lines with labels on where all the walls go, where does the HVAC go overhead, all of the plumbing penetrations, and it does it all itself with our guidance and with all of our, high accuracy coordination to then let people see where does everything go before everything comes out to get built, and nothing will be in the way, which will then speed up construction. So that's just a few of the services that we're covering.
Wow.
And we deal with anything that has to do with design and permitting and construction, and then after construction and financing. So we don't design anything, even though we do help give them information for design, but we're all pretty much existing conditions, showing people what's out there, and then laying out what needs to go where on a construction site.
You're not developing the Boston skyline, but you're making sure that it doesn't all crumble at some point.
Pretty much, it's more making sure it's standing straight and in the right place relative to where it's supposed to go.
Knock on wood that we don't get the big earthquake that because I think we are on a fault line in this area. We don't really get them a lot, but at some point, yikes.
Yeah, we hope not. That's for sure.
Very interesting. What would you say your secret sauce is? What's the unfair advantage that Feldman Geospatial has right now in this industry that a Boston developer might say, we got to talk to those guys. They got that.
I mean, well, look, there's a lot of good companies up there, but we have a few value propositions, but for a developer, their big thing is timing. They need things to happen on time. There are interest rate locks. There are permitting deadlines. They need to once they decide to do something, their carrying costs do not slow down. They keep going. So they need speed. They need responsiveness. One thing that we've been focused on since I came into the office is complete responsiveness. Our industry as a whole has just been they've had a hard time with that. Clients call, and traditionally someone's out in the field, so they have to call them back later. We were never staffed like that. We're in the office, field crews are in the field. We answer the phone. We don't have automated things directing places unless we miss a call. And so responsiveness has always been number one. And the clients just want to know, can you get it done in a week? Can you get it done in 2 weeks? How much will it cost? And when you tell us 2 weeks, because they always add extra to it, because they don't trust it, we try to give them trustworthy deadlines. So they'll call us and say, we need this in 2 weeks. And when we really drill into it, they need it in 4, but they're building a 2-week buffer because they don't really trust that we're going to get it done in time. So the biggest thing is responsiveness and being accountable to deadlines. Number 2 is we just get the work right. And, a lot of people are focused on cheap. We focus really on getting it right. We want to be cost effective, and we've leveraged technology to be more efficient. But people who are doing our clients who are doing what they do, they need things to be correct. They need to be right. They need to know where the boundary is. They need to know that their steel's in the right place. The tolerances are not large. So, we offer that, our quality control. And really, among everything we do, everybody from me to the leadership team on down, everybody cares at every level. So I don't know every detail in my position, but I'm willing to know every detail, and I'm willing to make any call anybody wants me to make. And if somebody wants to call me because I'm the CEO or a President Paul Foley, for example, because they just want to feel like someone at the top cares, we do. We care about every single client at this firm. And we feel that there's a lot of big companies buying other companies and everything. We're a local group. We do work outside of Massachusetts, and we'll continue to do so. We're 100 people, so we're big and we're staffed big enough, but we care on a micro level, and that's never going to change.
I think that speaks to your, the longevity of the business, the fact that it's family owned, the fact that you worked every job. Like you said, you might not know the answer to every question, but I would imagine you know who knows the answer to every question, right? At your company.
Yep.
I do want to talk about communication, and I want to talk a little bit about the team. How important is communication in your business?
It's extremely important on every level, internally to externally telling us what they need, people out on jobs working for our clients who don't really know what they're doing, so we have to work with them. But you talk to businesses all the time. I'm sure they tell you the number one problem is communication, right? I don't know who gets it perfect. I know that we spend weeks and meetings and days always talking about how to be better at it, and we aren't perfect. I wish
I
we
think
were.
I had a meeting yesterday. We talked for half an hour with a business owner and the leadership team about just asking questions. Like when you're out in the field with a client or a potential client or a contractor, are you asking questions or just telling them things, right? Um, you're not going to get too far just telling people things, right?
No,
You're not
no.
going to sell anything by telling people things. You're not going to generate new business by telling people things. You're going to generate new business, and you're going to do good business by asking really good questions.
Geez,
Agree?
I love that you said that. That has been one of the biggest focuses of my year, has been asking questions. I would be up to speed with a lot of stuff only because I know who to go. I would ask a couple questions and I'd show up at the leadership meeting and I'd be up to speed. And I'm telling you, I've watched it for years. I was lucky enough to have many mentoring meetings with John Fish, who's the head of Suffolk Construction. They're in
Oh
our
yeah,
neighborhood,
yeah.
$5 billion contractor. And I would meet with him about once a year. And I'm telling you, all he did was ask me questions. I couldn't get one question in with him ever. And I learned so much from him, just from him asking me questions. And he could see, just by asking a few questions from me, he got right to the point of all the issues that I should be working on. I've never seen anything like it, to the point where I'd have to be like, oh, John, timeout. Let me ask a question. I had to beg him to ask. He was so good at it. He was so hungry for knowledge, and he was so helpful just because he knew what questions to ask. It's unbelievable to see that.
John's gonna get some free publicity out of this
Well,
interview,
he
that's for
deserves
sure.
it. He was very good to me, and he's made such an impact on our business just because of those meetings I had with him between about 2007 and I'd say 2019.
Yeah, what a testimonial. Well,
Yeah.
I think, I talked about secret sauce, I talked about unfair advantage, and you said something earlier in this interview that struck me, which was the longevity of the people that have worked there. I wonder what that map looks like. If you were to take a map and if you were to take a whiteboard and just post-it notes, right, on tenure of employees of those 100, where would those fall if you had four categories? 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. I wonder what that would look like and what the importance of mapping that out is to you as the CEO.
Well, I wish I prepared that because, every year at our annual party, we give out those gifts, the 5 year, the 10. When you get to 40, we sent someone to New Orleans with his wife last year for a
Yeah.
weekend. But, so I started in 1998. I'm the second most tenured. Sean McDonough is one of our vice presidents. He started in 1986. So, I'm what am I at 28 years? he's at even more. I'm not doing the math right on the spot. Um, but then from there, you have my cousin Brian, who came in 2 years later. And then we have our leadership team. Paul Foley's our president. He was here in 2006. Steve Wilkes, 2008, Chief Innovation Officer. Damian Raffle and Tim were here around 2009, 2010. Other VPs, for example. But then, longevity is not everything. Now, it's great that they've been here forever, and it's great that we've had people who went through the 2008, 2009 dip with us, because we do have a huge amount of people in that 15 years and plus. But we also have people who are in a 5-year category who are making a huge impact.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt. My sister, I brought her in about 6 years ago at this point. She's probably the hardest worker in this company. And
Yeah.
a lot of people say, you don't bring family into a family business, you try to get them out, right? Not in this case.
Yeah.
So longevity is very important. But one of our core values is accountability. And whether you've been here 40 years or you started yesterday, accountability is very important to all of us
Yeah.
because we all need to deliver at every level, no matter what, and we don't want to
Mm-hmm.
get complacent.
Yeah, I guess where I'm going with this mapping of the longevity and the tenure of the businesses, I would imagine because you have several VPs and several leaders that have been here, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, you're able to transfer your institutional knowledge down to those folks that you think, are worthy of carrying on the tradition, right? So I wonder
Yep.
what that looks like. Like, do you have a systematic or a process for just transferring that knowledge, which is what all companies that are in your position are trying to do, trying their damnedest to do right now, right? Is to,
Yep.
hey,
Yep.
it's an 80-year-old business. If we want to work 80 more years in Boston with people like John Fish, we're going to have to transfer some of this knowledge down to the 5-year partner or the new employees, um, or we're going to have to close our doors, right? Am
Right.
I right?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And to get back to those three guys who are here since 1968, one was 1969 and the other one was 1975, the three leaders back then. Our leadership team was trained under a bunch of them. So Paul Foley, who's our president, worked with Bob Applegate, who started here in 1968. And the knowledge of Bob, there's no way you could encapsulate that because he
Yeah,
retired after 40 years.
yeah,
Paul worked with him for years, shoulder to shoulder. And Carl McCarthy was somebody else. He started in 1975, senior VP when he retired about 7 years ago. A lot of our field chiefs who are still in the field, a lot of our project managers, people drafting, they trained with him shoulder to shoulder. How do you want to do it? And I still hear, well, this is what Carl would have done. This is how Bob did it. So we have a lot of our leadership who took 44, 120 years of Boston heritage and history and how do we do things. And what we found is when people come from other companies as, oh, I was a project manager here, they're not a project manager by our standards. They're very great and we're happy to train them more,
yeah,
but our standards are much higher because we
mm,
really did spend time with those elders who
yeah,
really knew. And now these guys too are working shoulder to shoulder with the next generation. There's trainings that go on at 6 in the morning with our field manager, Kevin Ponder, people who want to learn how to do better. Paul started an Elevate program, which is all these different business and technical concepts where a class of, say, 12 people go through once a month trainings and then graduate. And we're going to even get better with the training as we go because we're very focused. You are right, though. We do need to keep the knowledge, but I feel like that's really happening because of the standards we have and how we're carrying it. The issue for us is making sure people need value, feel valued, and people feel like they do have a path. And
that
that's what
was
we're working with
that's kind
too.
of where I was going with it. How do you make your newer employees um, feel like they can have a richer life if they work for Feldman Geospatial, right? They're coming from a job maybe with a large corporation or just a really small company that's not 100 employees like yours, right? How do you make them feel like, yeah, you come here, you get trained up, and you're going to have just a more fruitful, richer life because of it.
Well, you have to meet them where they are. You know, there's some people, a lot of them come here because they want the prime time. They want to be on the 59th floor of that building before the glass is up. And not everyone wants to, that's hard. But
Yeah,
then people want to do the traditional survey work that we do as well.
yeah.
But some people want to be incredible impact players. I want to just do this job. I want to do it well. How do I do it? I want to be able to get my raises and bonuses and make the company better. But I also now, I want to, maybe someone else wants to be a director. How do I get there? We show them the way. And we try to do things a little differently. Just Friday, a few days ago, we shut the office. We invited everybody to come to what we call an impact player workshop. And we brought
Mm,
this guy in from Denver who works for a woman, Liz Wiseman, who wrote this great book, Impact Players, and another book called Multipliers. It was a leadership book, and Impact Players was, more of an impact player type of book. We brought him in from Denver to do a 3.5 hour workshop where we all 86 people volunteered to come, which I was thrilled about because not everyone
wow.
who works in engineering wants
Wow.
to leave the engineering world and go do some touchy-feely business. How do we do better type of workshop? So we had about 12 or 13 tables around, 7 people each, and we would have breakouts and discussions about what permissions can the company give you do you need from the company to do your best work?
Mm,
Is there some way you should be thinking about, this is my job, that needs a little work, I'm going to step over here and help, and I'm going to make an impact. And I feel like it showed everybody that we're willing to invest in everybody, no matter who they are. Because even if they want to stay in the same position, and some people do forever, that's fine. They're going to be great at that. They're going to continue to learn compared to people who maybe what might want to move up when there are openings or create openings because we're growing, which is possible too. And so we just want to make sure that they have those abilities. I'm sending a few of our admin people to the Ritz-Carlton Leadership Training Program. It's a one-day program in Dallas, and I did it many years ago. You learn about customer service on a new level. And the way the Ritz-Carlton does it, they make their guests feel so welcome. They empower their team members to solve problems by giving them certain budgets of, you can spend this much if there's a problem at the front desk. Don't tell them wait for my manager because they just get more angry. So we have a few people going there because our admin people service us, everyone at the firm. They service clients on the outside. And I really want to build that feeling of, geez, I just want to call that company because of these people.
incredible, incredibly insightful on your part to steal from the hospitality industry because, right? I mean, we've all been to a hotel that got it, right? On a business travel, traveling on business, a hotel where you're walking around for 20 minutes looking for someone to answer a question versus I've never been to a Ritz-Carlton, right? But I would imagine it's pretty quick that you get help and service at a Ritz-Carlton.
It's unbelievable.
Night and
Yeah.
day, I would imagine from between the highest end hotel and the lowest end. But I love that you took insights from that industry in particular. So bravo to you. So
And
what
and
I'm
that's
hearing
what you
is,
get when you come here, Kurt. And sorry to cut you off, is
yep,
you can come, you can go to a survey company, do survey work, go home, whatever. And you can come here and be at a firm that cares about you as a person to grow, right? We want people to grow. And when we ask about what does success look like by the end of the year, I don't always just want to hear 13% gross, we're going to be this profitable, I'm going to earn this much money. I want to hear, like, I went to all my kids' baseball games because we start early at 6 and we're done by, say, 2 or 3. I saw my kids' baseball games. I'm able to be a part of my family. My job has been fulfilling. I go to bed on Sunday night not dreading work, you
mhm,
know, and I do really high-end work, and my clients are really appreciative of me, and I feel valued. We're looking to give people that kind of holistic thing because if people are happy at work and home and everywhere, that's where people do their best work. And we really believe that.
you're providing that flow mindset for them. You're like, okay, I can succeed at home. I can succeed at work. I'm in flow. It's like I'm not even working, right? I don't even feel like I'm working anymore. Um, I really love your mentality. Sign me up. Are you guys hiring?
Sure, we'll
Um,
take you. You're a
sign
good
me up.
marketing guy, right?
We'll see. We'll talk. We'll talk offline.
Yeah.
I'm hearing accountability. I'm hearing if you're willing to be accountable for what you do, we are going to give you autonomy and we are going to empower you to do it, right? It starts with the accountability, which is in many cases people don't even like to hear that word, right? Um, but it's so important. It's a word that nobody likes to say, nobody likes to talk about, but it's one that it's table stakes for a company like yours. You're helping skyscrapers go up in the city of Boston. If you're not accountable, if you're not asking good questions and you're not doing this all day long every day, I don't think you would last, right? You wouldn't last at a company like Feldman Geospatial.
No, and part of the accountability is for all of our good, because if we're not accountable at all, the clients will just call some other company.
Yeah.
There's a lot of firms who can do what we do. Of course, we feel like we're one of the best. We care top to bottom, of course. Other firms can accomplish a lot of what we can accomplish, right? So we have to be accountable, because if you're responsive, people will keep calling you back. If you're not responsive and accountable, then it doesn't work. Now,
Yeah.
but with accountability also comes, respect. So the core values are trust, respect, accountability, humility, health, and leadership. And we try to put all of that together and I personally try to live my life with all those. And look, we all have our moments, right, where we're not perfect. But I think when you combine respect with accountability and trust, and you show
Yeah.
humility at the leadership level, I think it's something that works. We just try to communicate honestly to people and get them to buy into the mission. Because by being accountable, we're just making the company better. The company does better. Everyone else here does better. That's the formula.
Amen. Let's talk a little bit about the community work that you're doing. I know you mentioned recently that you're on the Channel 4 News, and I noticed in your bio that you're a percussionist and you're into music. I think you went to school for music as well. Tell me a little bit about this event in Roxbury, and what that was all about. And
Yeah, we've been sponsoring a jazz night, and we own the building we're in, so our office is on the second and third floor. We have a tenant that's a brewery, Long Live Roxbury. They brew amazing craft beer on the first floor. They have a tap room. So the jazz program was something that I always dreamed of. I would call myself maybe a former percussion player, conga player.
okay,
I haven't been playing much anymore. I did go to the George Washington University in DC. I did do some music classes and studies and stuff, and when I traveled to Cuba as well. But I wouldn't say I went to music school. I barely would call myself a musician, just
so
just for the record. But
you're not competing with Chester Thompson right now, right?
no, no. Um, but really the community work, it started when we moved to Roxbury here. We were in the South End overlooking the Mass Pike in this, great building, for 40 years, the company was, but even before my time. A developer was going to buy it. We had to move. Through some luck, we found this building, which was a semi-blighted old factory building in Roxbury, but right up there is Boston Medical Center, the Flower Exchange. We're right outside the South End, Nubian Square. So we're in a great place, very central with a parking lot. So really it started because we moved here with 55 people at the firm, and we planted roots here. And I have a window right here overlooking Hamden Street. And we would come to work anywhere from 4:30, 5 in the morning, 5:30. One
Wow.
morning I went up to my window, I saw a bus stop at 5:30. It was freezing cold. It was in December. And I saw these kids getting on this bus. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's part of the MECO program. They're maybe going out to a suburb like I'm from Newton, where my kids are going to school. And something hit me in such a real way. I'm like, first of all, it's freezing. Second of all, my kids are sleeping. And these guys are going to the same school that maybe my kids are going to, but my kids are going to wake up in 2 hours from now. And it really hit me that I was like, this is the stuff that you hear about, where it's not necessarily easy living in a city and being in places that are less fortunate than some of the suburbs.
Yeah.
And so what really hit me was, all right, we're planting roots here. We have 55 people here. We have to do something, for the neighborhood. And I did contact the Orchard Gardens Resident Association. I did meet up with them. We started a thing every winter where we would send winter jackets for their Christmas ball. And then it just grew to where we would just help fund whatever gifts they want to give to the kids there, or the Orchard Gardens Boys and Girls Club. And then it grew into all kinds of other things focused around kids, the neighborhood, Christmas lights around our building. Let's give kids a sense of pride about their neighborhood instead of
Right.
people think of Roxbury with too much negative connotation,
Yeah.
quite honestly. So that's where I felt businesses have to do something. So that's the beginning of it. And there's been a lot of other things. Now, fast forward to 2024, I realized let's change it up a little bit. Why don't we take this brewery space downstairs and dedicate one weeknight and create a fun community event that's free for everybody? So I spoke to Jessica and Armando, the owners of the brewery. I said, this is what I'd like to do. I'll book the bands, I'll pay for it. We'll bring them in and let's see if we can get people to walk here and have a community space and see what we can do. And that started in January of 2024. So last week we had about 48 weeks of free music. And this year we're fully booked till the end of 25, another about 49 weeks of music. And it was going to start as, why don't we get Berkeley students in? And then I quickly moved to some musicians I knew, and it became more of a professional type of engagement. And so what we've been seeing since is people from the neighborhood walking here with 2 and 3-year-old kids who play board games and they watch music. The parents have a beer and grab a sandwich from the guy making sandwiches.
Perfect.
And then we have people even older in their 80s that come up from the suburbs. And the musicians come to see other musicians because one, it's free and that helps. And two, we have such great talent here. Everybody's just coming to see it. So, a light night might be 50 people show up. And then a heavier night like last week after the Channel 4 news, there was probably 100 people here.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see. And the people I meet, they're like, yeah, well, I just moved in up the street. So I didn't even know this place existed. And then we just walked down the hill and we're here. To see that compared to when I walked in the building and there were construction vehicles and old cars parked everywhere and it was a mess, to see this new place with all this music and all these people from all ages. So it's a good thing we're doing as a company, but I'll tell you, it feels really good when you're in there seeing everything happening.
Just hearing you talk about it at length like this is, I can tell that it's something you're very proud of, and that it energizes you.
Yeah.
As a business owner, you feel like you're doing the right thing, but you're so into it. You just love what you're seeing, how you're seeing the community develop around this program that you started. I think it's great.
Yeah, and it's fun. And it's, like some nights I just come in and I'm not even with anyone. I'm by myself and I just stand and I look. And I want to just ask everyone at the table, like, why are you here? Where did you hear about this? Because everyone has a different story.
Yeah.
And it's just so much fun to see it. It's that if you build it, they will come concept, which
Yeah.
I'm not a developer, our clients are, so they build amazing places and everyone goes. But to actually see it on this micro level has been just soul fulfilling to me. It's been
People
incredible.
people will come, Michael. People will come.
That's what we're
Well,
seeing.
this has been a fascinating interview. Let's tell me just before we close, what are you most excited about right now that's going to be really hard for you to do? Something really hard. We didn't talk about the 2008 dip. You took a little J curve dip in 2008 when the economy took a dive. But what are you excited about? A little bit of anxiety right now that you feel is worth it in the business.
I think what I'm excited about that I believe is a lot of work too is was my commitment this year to I decided I'm going to learn how to be a better coach for people here. I'm going to learn how to ask the right questions like we talked about. And I'm going to figure that out and really try to leverage those skills to help anyone in our firm from entry level up to be the best version of themselves. So I started reading some books and listening to books and listening to podcasts. And through some interesting way, I got direct mail marketed by this company, CEO Coaching International. And I said, I got your email. I'll deal with it later. And then they called and I said, I'm sure I'll do a 15-minute meeting to learn what you can help me with. And they sent me the meeting invite. And I hope I'm allowed to tell the long version of this, by the way, Kurt. So because the long version's kind of fun.
Sure.
So they send the invite, and I was the day before I was going on vacation with my family to Miami, February vacation. And the Zoom had a 305 area code, which I knew is Southern Florida. And And I hit them back. I said, hey, are you located in Southern Florida? Because I'm going on vacation. I'd be willing to have an in-person meeting.
Mm.
And they said, well, our founder lives in Miami Beach. If you would want to meet for him, he said you could come to his house on Saturday for coffee. And I was like, wow. And I was on the airplane getting the message. And I'm like, well, I'm available tomorrow because I'm on vacation. So I went and met with him. And not only was he one of the most exciting guys in the world to meet, he was a little guy like me. I'm 5'4". I walk into his house. We're looking at each other eye level. Fitness is a big thing for him, and it is for me. He's a triathlete. Now, he's got a little more net worth than me because I walked into quite a nice place in the water. And it was just funny, like, wow, what a great chance meeting. But what he told me about is their coaches are retired CEOs who work with people like me who are
Hmm.
in a business who maybe we're a business that's a gold mine, but we need a little extra help to either
Yep,
take it to a next level or get better.
I like
And so
it.
by the end of that meeting, I'm like, sign me up. I don't want
Yeah,
to learn how to be a coach. I want one of your coaches.
that's
So
great. What a great
so that's
story.
the long story. And then the shorter story is where I'm working with a coach who we meet with. I'm meeting with twice a month. And Paul Foley's going to come into these meetings, our president with me too. And he does a year planning, strategic planning. Then we do quarterly. And
Hmm.
it's based on this guy, Mark Moses's book called Make Big Happen. And you come up with these huge, outrageous targets. You break it down into an annual plan. You break the annual plan into quarterly. You all have your specific measurable activities, and each week you see how you're all doing. So that's a lot of work. And for people who have been here since 2006, it's like, wow, this is the change. Because suddenly you used to be like, I don't know, as long as we grow 5% a year, I'm happy and let's just run it loose. Now we're doing things different and it's more invigorating. It's more exciting. We have all these goals and it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm very excited about it.
I like to tell that I coach as well, but I like to tell the leaders that I work with, it's a 90-day world. You're the CEO, right? And it always starts with the CEO. CEO is going to have a 3-year vision. How can we start hitting that 3-year vision in the first year, be on pace for that 3-year vision? And then let's look at our quarterly rocks. Let's look at our quarterly goals that are going to keep us on pace for the 1-year goal. So it's a 90-day world. I may have a 3-year vision, but if I just tell you what I want to be in 3 years, you're not gonna be able to conceptualize how to get there, right? It has to be 90 days. What are we going to do in the next 90 days to get us on that path? And I love that you're doing that with CEO International, is it called?
CEO Coaching International. But Kurt, just to be, completely honest with you, I was not good at that, right? I was good at vision, like we need a new office space, or I had a great vision for this
Yeah.
building, or my jazz night or community. So there is vision I have in a lot of things. But when my guys would ask, what do you want in 3 years? It would be 5 to 7% growth a year for three. I was not good at it. So
So it
at
was
100
dry. It was
people,
like, I don't know. If I, how's that sound, right?
I wasn't good. And when you have a motivated group like I do,
Yeah.
and you're not giving them a real North Star, as I wasn't, people weren't maybe fulfilling their potential. They're great guys, and we do these retreats every year, and we love each other's families. It's all wonderful, but we were missing something, and I wasn't providing it.
Yep.
And that's the best part of this whole coaching piece is he's showing me the way. I was good with a 20-person firm and 50. Now we're 100. You need to get more strategic with your thinking.
Hmm.
And it wasn't me. We needed a better CEO than me. And now we have that because we have this coach and we're all getting help through that. And you got to look inside the mirror sometimes and say, look, I'm not the right person for this time and I need help. And that's why it's work. And that's why I'm happy about it, because
Ugh.
admitting that and coming to that is going to make us better.
Giving me the chills. The humility piece just shined right through on this interview. You're making me think founding fathers, George Washington. I'm not the guy. I don't want to be president. All those thoughts are flowing through my head as you speak, and it's
Yeah,
really exciting and motivating. So let's do this again, Michael. This was a great
sure.
interview.